The deep space monitoring station on the dark side of the moon was quiet that night. Sarah Chen sat at her console, watching the endless stream of cosmic background noise scroll across her screens. She had been doing this job for 5 years, listening to the universe whisper its ancient secrets. Most nights, nothing happened. The universe just hummed along with its usual radio waves and distant pulsar beats. Then everything changed. The signal hit her receivers at exactly 3:47 a.m. Earth Standard Time. It wasn't like the random noise she usually monitored. This was different. This had a pattern. Sarah's coffee mug slipped from her hand, shattering on the floor as she stared at the data streaming across her display. "Holy shit," she whispered, her fingers flying across the keyboard. She ran the signal through every filter. Every analysis program they had. The results came back the same each time. This was artificial. This was intentional. This was alien. Within minutes, alarms were blaring throughout the facility. Dr. Marcus Webb, the station director, burst into the control room still in his pajamas. His gray hair stuck up at odd angles, but his eyes were sharp and alert. "Show me," he commanded. Sarah pulled up the data on the main screen. The signal was a repeating sequence of mathematical progressions, prime numbers, and what appeared to be coordinates. But there was something else embedded in the transmission, something that made Webb's face go pale. "They're not just saying hello," Webb said slowly. "Look at this section here. If I'm reading this correctly, they're announcing their arrival. And these numbers?" He paused, doing quick calculations in his head. "They'll be here in 6 months. The room fell silent, except for the steady beep of the incoming signal. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. First contact was supposed to be a moment of celebration, a joining of civilizations across the cosmos, but something about this signal felt wrong. It felt like a warning, or worse, a threat. Within hours, the news had reached Earth's highest levels of government. President Maria Rodriguez sat in the Situation Room, surrounded by generals, scientists, and advisors. The holographic displays showed the signal's analysis, the projected arrival point, and most concerningly, the size of whatever was coming. "How big are we talking?" Rodriguez asked, her voice steady despite the magnitude of the situation. General Chen, head of Earth's orbital defense, pulled up the calculations. "Based on the gravitational distortions they're creating as they decelerate, we're looking at a fleet of at least 50 ships. Each one appears to be several kilometers in length." 50 ships, Rodriguez repeated. "And we have 6 months. Madam President," Dr. Lisa Patel, Earth's leading xenobiologist, interjected, "we should consider that this might be a peaceful contact. The mathematical sequences could be—" "Could be what, Doctor?" General Chen interrupted. "A friendly hello? They're announcing their arrival with a fleet that could glass our entire planet. In my book, that's not how you make friends." Rodriguez held up her hand for silence. She stood and walked to the window, looking out at the lights of New Geneva below. Humanity had come so far. They had colonies on Mars, mining operations in the asteroid belt, and research stations throughout the solar system. They had overcome wars, climate change, and countless other challenges. But they had done it all thinking they were alone. "How long would it take to ready the Prometheus fleet?" she asked quietly. The room stirred. The Prometheus fleet was humanity's most closely guarded secret. Built in the shadows of Jupiter's moons, hidden from even their own citizens, it represented decades of black-budget projects and theoretical weapons research. Most people didn't even know it existed. Admiral Hassan, commander of the secret fleet, cleared his throat. "The ships are ready, Madam President. We've been running drills for years. But if we launch them, the world will know we've been preparing for this," Rodriguez finished. "That we've been building warships while talking about peace and exploration." "With respect, ma'am," General Chen said, "I'd rather be alive and embarrassed than dead and diplomatic. Rodriguez turned back to face the room. In that moment, she made a decision that would echo through history. Admiral Hassan, you have my authorization. Activate the Prometheus fleet. All of it. The Admiral nodded grimly. Yes, ma'am. But I should warn you. Once we power up those ships, every deep space sensor from here to Alpha Centauri will detect them. There's no hiding what they are. Then let them see, Rodriguez said. Let whoever is coming know that Earth is not defenseless. And Admiral, I want those ships ready to launch the moment we have a target. Deep in the Jovian system, things began to move. Massive hangar doors, disguised as crater walls, slowly opened. One by one, humanity's most terrifying creations emerged from their hiding places. These weren't the elegant exploration vessels the public knew about. These were predators, built for one purpose: war. The UES Nemesis was the first to power up. At 5 kilometers long, it was a floating fortress bristling with weapons humanity had only dreamed of. Railguns that could accelerate projectiles to 20% the speed of light. Missile pods loaded with antimatter warheads. And at its heart, something even more terrifying, a singularity generator capable of creating micro-black holes as weapons. Captain James Thompson stood on the bridge of the Nemesis, watching his crew prepare for something they had trained for but never truly believed would happen. He was a tall man, scarred from the Mars Independence Wars, with eyes that had seen too much. But even he felt a tremor of fear at what they were about to face. "Status report," he called out. "All systems nominal, Captain," his XO, Commander Yuki Tanaka, replied. "The fleet is coming online. 60 ships confirmed operational. The Hades, Ragnarok, and Apocalypse are reporting ready status." Thompson nodded. Each ship in the Prometheus fleet was named after destruction, death, or endings. It was intentional, a psychological weapon in itself. If humanity was going to war, they wanted their enemies to know exactly what they were facing. "Sir," the communications officer called out, "we're receiving a priority transmission from Earth. It's being broadcast on all channels." "Put it on screen," Thompson ordered. President Rodriguez appeared, standing at a podium with the flags of all Earth's nations behind her. She looked older than she had just hours ago, the weight of her decision etched on her face. "Citizens of Earth," she began, "today, we received a signal from beyond our solar system. We are not alone. In 6 months, visitors will arrive at our doorstep. We do not know their intentions, but we must be prepared for any possibility." The president paused, and Thompson could see her steeling herself for what came next. "That is why I am revealing the existence of the Prometheus fleet. For the past 30 years, we have been building a defensive force capable of protecting our world. These ships represent the best of human engineering, our determination to survive, and our refusal to be victims." Across Earth and its colonies, people watched in stunned silence. Social media exploded. Some called it betrayal, others prudence. But as the first images of the Prometheus fleet appeared on screens, even the critics fell silent. The ships were magnificent and terrifying in equal measure. Back on the Nemesis, Thompson received his orders directly from Admiral Hassan. "Captain, you are to take your battle group to the projected arrival coordinates. Establish a defensive perimeter. Do not fire unless fired upon. But be ready. If this goes south, you'll have about 30 seconds to react before they're on top of us." "Understood, Admiral. What about first contact protocols?" "Follow them until they give you a reason not to. But, Captain, if they so much as twitch wrong, you are authorized to engage with extreme prejudice. We don't get a second chance at this." As the Prometheus fleet began its journey to the edge of the solar system, Earth transformed. Old rivalries were set aside as humanity united in the face of potential extinction. Factories that had built consumer goods retooled to produce weapons and supplies. Young people flooded recruitment centers, wanting to be part of humanity's defense. Scientists worked around the clock to decode more of the alien signal, searching for any clue about who was coming. Dr. Patel made a breakthrough 3 weeks after the signal's arrival. Hidden in the mathematical sequences was what appeared to be biological data. As she decoded it, her excitement turned to horror. "They're not just announcing their arrival," she told the emergency council. "They're cataloging us. This data, it's a detailed analysis of human physiology, our weaknesses, our pressure points. They know exactly what we are, and they've been studying us." "How?" President Rodriguez demanded. "How could they know so much about us?" Patel pulled up her analysis. "The signal isn't coming from their fleet. It's a relay. They've had probes in our system, possibly for years, studying us. We never detected them because we weren't looking for them." The implication was chilling. Humanity hadn't just been discovered. They had been observed, analyzed, cataloged like specimens in a lab. And now the collectors were coming. In response, Earth's preparation intensified. The moon was transformed into a fortress, its low gravity perfect for massive railgun installations. Mars's colonies built underground bunkers capable of housing millions. The asteroid belt became a minefield, seeded with autonomous weapons platforms. Captain Thompson and the Prometheus fleet took position at the heliopause, the boundary between the solar system and interstellar space. 60 ships spread out in a defensive formation, their sensors scanning the void for any sign of the approaching fleet. "I want drill rotations every 6 hours," Thompson ordered. "Keep the crews sharp and maintain communication silence except for essential traffic. If they're listening, I don't want them to know anything more about us than they already do." Weeks passed in tense preparation. Then, 1 month before the projected arrival, something unexpected happened. The signal changed. Instead of mathematical sequences, it began transmitting images. The first ones were benign, star charts, representations of their home world, pictures of their species. The aliens were roughly humanoid, but stood 3 meters tall with elongated limbs and skin that seemed to shift between different metallic hues. They had 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern and mouths filled with what looked like crystalline teeth. But it was the images that followed that sent chills through everyone who saw them. Planets burned. Species knelt in submission or lay dead on battlefields. Ship after ship of conquered civilizations added to their fleet. And at the end, an image of Earth with alien script that the linguists translated as a single word, next. President Rodriguez called an emergency session. The debate was fierce but short. Some argued for attempting negotiation, others for a preemptive strike. But as the evidence mounted, the conclusion became inescapable. These beings, who came to be known as the Harvesters, weren't explorers or diplomats. They were conquerors. "We have one advantage," General Chen pointed out during the final strategy session. "They expect us to be primitive. The probes they sent were old, probably launched decades ago. They've seen our radio signals, maybe some of our early space efforts, but they don't know about the Prometheus fleet. They don't know what we've become." Rodriguez nodded slowly. "Then we use that. Let them think we're weak. When they arrive, we'll have one chance to show them the cost of threatening Earth." As the final weeks counted down, a strange calm settled over humanity. The panic of the early days gave way to determination. Children went to school, people went to work. But everyone knew that life as they knew it was about to change forever. In space, Captain Thompson stood on the observation deck of the Nemesis, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, death was approaching at relativistic speeds. But as he looked back at his fleet, at the weapons humanity had built, at the determination in his crew's eyes, he felt something he hadn't expected. Hope. The Harvesters expected to find prey. They would find predators instead. "Captain," Commander Tanaka's voice crackled over the comm. "Long-range sensors are detecting gravitational anomalies. They're early. Thompson's jaw tightened. "All hands, battle stations, signal the fleet, and send word to Earth. Our guests have arrived." The lights on 60 warships flared to life, weapon systems powered up, and humanity's most terrifying fleet prepared to introduce itself to the galaxy. The moment of truth was at hand. The gravitational waves hit the Prometheus fleet's sensors like a tsunami. Space itself seemed to ripple as 50 massive vessels decelerated from near-light speed. Captain Thompson watched the tactical display with grim fascination as the Harvester fleet resolved into distinct contacts. "My God," Lieutenant Commander Sarah Reeves whispered from the sensor station. "Their lead ship is 12 kilometers long." Thompson didn't respond immediately. He was studying the alien formation, looking for weaknesses, patterns, anything that might give them an edge. The Harvester ships were arranged in a sphere, with the largest vessel at the center surrounded by progressively smaller craft. It was a formation designed for complete battlefield control. "Signal all ships," Thompson commanded. "Hold formation. Weapons hot, but do not target. Let them make the first move." The bridge of the Nemesis was silent except for the hum of systems and the quiet breathing of the crew. Every person there knew they were living through a moment that would define humanity's future. Either they would survive this day, or Earth would fall like so many worlds before it. The Harvester fleet continued its approach, moving with an arrogant confidence that spoke of countless victories. They made no attempt to hide their weapons systems or shield their approach. Why would they? According to their intelligence, they were approaching a primitive world that had barely managed to leave its own atmosphere. Then something happened that no one expected. The Harvesters stopped. Their perfect formation wavered for just a moment as their sensors finally got a clear reading on what was waiting for them. On the bridge of the Harvester command ship, Supreme Executor Kraktor stared at the tactical display in confusion. His 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of extreme agitation among his species. "Tactical, confirm these readings," he ordered, his crystalline teeth clicking with each word. "Confirmed, Supreme Executor," his tactical officer replied, fear creeping into its voice. 60 vessels of unknown configuration. Energy signatures indicate weapon systems far exceeding our initial intelligence estimates." Kraktor's skin shifted from bronze to deep purple, a sign of rage. The probes had shown a species that had barely achieved nuclear fission. These ships, with their impossible energy readings and obvious military design, should not exist. "Open a channel," he commanded. "Let us see what manner of deception this is." Back on the Nemesis, the communications officer looked up sharply. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the alien fleet, audio and visual." "Put it through. All ships, maintain positions," Thompson ordered. The main screen flickered to life, revealing the bridge of the Harvester command ship. Kraktor filled the display, his imposing figure meant to intimidate. When he spoke, the universal translator rendered his words in a cold, mechanical tone. "Primitive species," Kraktor began, "you dare to stand before the eternal harvest with these toys? We have consumed civilizations that spanned galaxies. Your deception is pointless. Surrender now, and some of you may be allowed to serve. Resist, and we will strip your world bare." Thompson stood slowly, his scarred face impassive. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of humanity's defiance. "I am Captain James Thompson of the United Earthship Nemesis. You have entered our solar system with hostile intent. You have threatened our world and our people. This is your only warning. Leave now, or face the consequences." For a moment, silence stretched between the two fleets. Then Kraktor did something that his species considered a laugh. It sounded like grinding glass. "You amuse me, Captain Thompson. Very well. We will take your ships as trophies after we burn your world. All vessels attack formation. Begin the harvest." The connection cut, and immediately space erupted into chaos. The Harvester fleet surged forward, energy beams and plasma torpedoes filling the void between the two forces. But humanity was ready. The Prometheus fleet's point defense systems came online, creating a wall of fire that intercepted incoming projectiles. Railguns spoke in silent thunder, sending tungsten rounds at significant fractions of light speed toward the alien vessels. "All ships, execute Omega formation," Thompson commanded. "Fire at will." The human fleet moved with practiced precision. They had trained for this moment for years, running countless simulations. Now, all that preparation paid off. The ships split into wolf packs, using their smaller size and greater maneuverability to avoid the Harvester's massive main guns. The UES Ragnarok, commanded by Captain Sofia Volkov, dove beneath the alien formation and unleashed its special weapon. The singularity generator hummed to life, and a micro-black hole bloomed in the midst of 3 Harvester destroyers. The gravitational forces tore the ships apart, their hulls crumpling like paper. 3 down, Volkov reported with grim satisfaction, moving to secondary target. But the Harvesters were not helpless prey. Their technology was advanced, their experience vast. A concentrated barrage from their lead ship caught the UES Prometheus itself, the fleet's namesake. Shields flared and died, and the ship took horrific damage to its port side. "Prometheus is hit," the tactical officer reported. "They're venting atmosphere." Thompson gritted his teeth. First blood to the enemy. "Nemesis Battle Group, concentrate fire on their command ship. Let's see how they like antimatter." The Nemesis and its escorts launched a coordinated strike. Dozens of missiles streaked through space, each one carrying enough antimatter to devastate a city. The Harvester's point defense was good but not perfect. 3 missiles got through. The explosions were visible from Earth's most powerful telescopes. 3 new stars bloomed briefly in the darkness as antimatter met matter in violent annihilation. When the light faded, the Harvester command ship was wounded, great rents torn in its hull. On Earth, President Rodriguez watched the battle from the Emergency Command Center. The tactical display showed the 2 fleets engaged in a deadly dance, ships dying on both sides. But something was becoming clear. Humanity was holding its own. "They expected sheep," General Chen observed. "They found wolves instead." But the battle was far from over. The Harvesters, shocked by the resistance they faced, changed tactics. Instead of the overwhelming assault they had planned, they pulled back and regrouped. Smaller ships formed screening formations while the larger vessels brought their most powerful weapons online. "Captain, I'm reading a massive energy buildup in their lead ship," Lieutenant Commander Reeves reported, her voice tight with concern. "Whatever they're charging, it's big." Thompson studied the readings. "All ships, evasive maneuvers. Whatever's coming, don't be there when it arrives." The Harvester superweapon fired. A beam of coherent energy, wider than most human ships, lanced through space. It missed the scattered human fleet but struck the moon's surface where one of the defense installations was located. The beam drilled through kilometers of rock like it was tissue paper, leaving a glowing crater visible from Earth. "Jesus," someone whispered on the bridge. Thompson's mind raced. If they could do that to the moon, what would happen when they turned it on Earth? They needed to end this quickly. "Signal the Hades and Apocalypse groups," he ordered. "Execute Plan Prometheus." Plan Prometheus was humanity's last resort, a strategy so dangerous that many had argued against even considering it. But desperate times called for desperate measures. 10 ships of the Prometheus fleet suddenly accelerated, not toward the enemy, but past them, deeper into the solar system. The Harvesters, thinking them cowards fleeing the battle, sent a pursuit force after them. It was exactly what Thompson had hoped for. The fleeing human ships led their pursuers on a chase through the solar system, past Mars, through the asteroid belt where hidden weapon platforms added their fire to the running battle. All the while, they were drawing the harvester ships toward Jupiter. Captain Elena Rodriguez commanded the lead ship in this desperate gambit, the UES Hades. She watched her rear sensors as 6 harvester vessels closed the distance, their weapons reaching out to cripple her engines. "Just a little further," she muttered. "Come on, take the bait." As they approached Jupiter, she gave the order. "All ships, execute dive. Let's show them what humans are willing to do." The 10 human ships dove straight toward Jupiter, using the gas giant's massive gravity well to accelerate to speeds that strained their hulls. The harvester ships followed, confident in their superiority. They didn't realize the trap until it was too late. Hidden in Jupiter's upper atmosphere, disguised as mining stations, were the most powerful weapons humanity had ever built. Gravitational pulse generators, designed to manipulate the very fabric of space-time. As the harvester ships passed the point of no return, the weapons activated. Jupiter's already massive gravity suddenly intensified tenfold in localized pockets around the alien vessels. The harvester ships, caught completely off guard, were dragged screaming into the gas giant's crushing depths. Their hulls, strong as they were, crumpled like tin cans under the pressure. "6 enemy vessels destroyed," Captain Rodriguez reported, her ship shaking as it fought against Jupiter's pull. Hades Group returning to main battle. But while the trap at Jupiter had been successful, the main battle still raged. The harvesters, now aware that they faced a genuine threat, had abandoned all pretense of an easy victory. They fought with the fury of a species that had never known defeat, their weapons carving through space with lethal precision. The UES Cerberus took a direct hit and broke in half, its crew of 300 lost in an instant. The UES Fenris lost all power and drifted helplessly as harvester boarding craft attached to its hull. But for every human ship lost, the aliens paid a price. The battlefield was littered with the expanding debris fields of destroyed vessels from both fleets. In the midst of this chaos, something unexpected happened. One of the smaller harvester ships suddenly broke formation and began transmitting on all frequencies. The message was simple, but shocking. "Cease fire. We wish to communicate." Thompson, suspicious but curious, ordered a temporary halt to hostilities. The human fleet pulled back slightly, weapons still trained on the enemy but holding fire. The harvesters did the same. A new face appeared on the communication screen. This alien was smaller than Kraktor, its skin a shifting pattern of silver and gold. When it spoke, its voice held something that sounded almost like fear. "I am Sub-Commander Velix," it said. "I speak against the will of my superiors, but I must. Your species. You are not what we expected, not what we were told." "Explain," Thompson demanded, aware that this could be a trap but willing to listen. "We were told you were primitive, weak, ready for harvest like so many before. But you fight with the fury of the Deathless Ones. Your weapons—" Velix paused, its 4 eyes blinking rapidly. "We have lost more ships in this single battle than in our last 10 conquests combined." On the Harvester command ship, Kraktor roared in fury at his subordinate's betrayal. But he too could see the tactical display. Nearly half his fleet was gone, and the humans showed no signs of breaking. Worse, long-range sensors showed more ships rising from Earth's gravity well. Reinforcements. The second wave of the Prometheus fleet had launched. These were the ships held in reserve, the ones that had been hidden even deeper than the first wave. 40 more vessels, fresh and ready for battle, accelerated toward the engagement zone. "You have a choice," Thompson said to both Velix, and he knew the listening Kraktor. "You can continue this battle and we will destroy each other. Or you can leave now and spread the word to whatever other species you might threaten. Humanity is not prey. We are the predators you tell stories about in the dark." The human reinforcements arrived, taking position alongside their battered but unbroken comrades. 100 human ships now faced the remaining 25 harvester vessels. The odds had shifted dramatically. On Earth, billions watched and waited. In the command center, President Rodriguez stood surrounded by her advisors, all of them holding their breath. This was the moment that would define humanity's place in the galaxy. Kractor appeared on the screen again, his skin now a dull gray of defeat. For a species that had known only victory for millennia, this moment was almost incomprehensible. But the numbers didn't lie. If the battle continued, they might inflict more damage on the humans, but their fleet would be annihilated. "You have won this day," Kractor said, each word seemingly torn from him with great pain. "But know this, humans. The galaxy is vast, and you have made enemies today. The eternal harvest remembers all who oppose it." Thompson stepped forward, his voice carrying the weight of humanity's answer. "Then let them remember this. We did not seek this fight. We did not threaten your worlds or your people. But when you came to our home with death in your hearts, you found something you didn't expect. You found a species that would rather die on its feet than live on its knees. Remember that, and remember that we are no longer confined to this one world. We are coming." The last part was a bluff, mostly. Humanity had no immediate plans for galactic expansion, but Thompson knew the power of perception. Let the harvesters spread the word that humans were coming. Let fear work for them instead of against them. For long moments, the two fleets faced each other across the void. Then slowly, the harvester ships began to turn. One by one, they oriented themselves away from the solar system and began to accelerate. But before the command ship departed, Valix sent one final transmission. "You have earned something no species has earned in 10,000 years, the sub-commander said. "You have earned the fear of the eternal harvest. Use it wisely." The human fleet maintained its defensive posture until the last harvester ship had jumped to faster-than-light speed and disappeared from their sensors. Only then did Thompson allow himself to slump slightly in his command chair. "Stand down from battle stations," he ordered. "Send rescue shuttles to disabled ships, and signal Earth. Tell them we held the line." The bridge erupted in cheers, the tension of battle finally releasing. They had done it. They had faced a technologically superior foe and not just survived, but triumphed. The cost had been high, 12 ships lost with all hands, but they had saved Earth. As the Prometheus fleet began the journey back toward Earth, carrying their wounded and their dead, the implications of what had happened began to sink in. Humanity was no longer alone, and they were no longer hidden. The galaxy now knew that Earth existed, and that its people were not to be trifled with. In the coming days, as the full scope of the victory became clear, Earth celebrated as one world. The differences that had divided humanity seemed petty in the face of what they had achieved together. But even as they celebrated, the work continued. The damaged harvester ships that had been left behind were carefully studied. Their technology, while advanced, was not incomprehensible. Human scientists and engineers worked around the clock to understand and adapt what they could. Within weeks, prototype weapons based on harvester designs were being tested. President Rodriguez addressed the United Nations, now truly united in a way it had never been before. "We have passed our first test," she said. "But it will not be our last. The galaxy is vast, and we now know it contains both wonders and terrors. We must be ready for both." The Prometheus fleet was expanded, its numbers doubled, then tripled. New ships incorporated lessons learned from the battle and technology reverse-engineered from the enemy. Humanity had been blooded, but they had also been educated. Captain Thompson, now Admiral Thompson, stood once again on the observation deck of the Nemesis. The ship bore scars from the battle, burns and patches where armor had been replaced, but like humanity itself, it had endured. "What do you think is out there?" Commander Tanaka asked, joining him at the viewport. Thompson was quiet for a moment before answering. "Opportunities, threats, friends we haven't met yet, and enemies we'll wish we hadn't. But whatever's out there, we'll face it." He turned to look at his old friend and executive officer. "We sent a message today, not just to the harvesters, but to every species within 1,000 light years. Earth stands ready. We didn't ask for this fight, but we won't back down from it either." As Earth's defenses were rebuilt and strengthened, as new ships rolled off the production lines, as young men and women trained for battles yet to come, one thing was clear. Humanity had announced its presence on the galactic stage, not with words of peace or friendship, but with fire and defiance. They had shown that they would not go quietly into the night, that they would not vanish without a fight. The moment one signal had reached Earth, humanity's most terrifying fleet had launched, and in doing so, they had changed the course of galactic history forever. 5 years had passed since the Battle of Sol, as historians had come to call it. Earth's sky now held new constellations, orbital defense platforms that gleamed like diamonds in the night. The moon bore the scar of the Harvester superweapon, a massive crater that served as a permanent reminder of how close humanity had come to extinction. Admiral James Thompson stood in the command center of Fortress Luna, the military installation built into the moon's wounded surface. Through the reinforced windows, he could see the blue marble of Earth below and the constant stream of ships moving between the planet and its colonies. Humanity had not just survived, it had thrived. "Admiral, the Ishikawa just returned from the Centauri expedition," his aide, Lieutenant Commander Davis, reported. "They're requesting permission to dock." "Grant it," Thompson replied, "and have Captain Nakamura report to me immediately after debrief." The Ishikawa was one of humanity's new exploration vessels, built with a hybrid of human and reverse-engineered harvester technology. These ships could travel faster, hit harder, and survive longer than anything from the original Prometheus fleet. But their primary mission wasn't war. It was discovery. As Thompson waited for the captain's report, he reflected on how much had changed. The victory over the Harvesters had done more than save Earth. It had fundamentally transformed human society. The old divisions of nation, race, and creed seemed almost quaint now. When faced with the vastness of space and the knowledge that hostile forces existed among the stars, humanity had finally found common purpose. Captain Yuki Nakamura arrived within the hour, still wearing her flight suit. She was young for a captain, but the rapid expansion of Earth's fleet had created opportunities for those with talent and courage. "Admiral," she said, saluting crisply, "I have news from the Centauri system." "At ease, Captain. Report." Nakamura activated a holographic display showing a star system with 3 planets. "We made contact, sir. A species calling themselves the Valith. They're roughly at our technological level, maybe a bit behind. But, sir, they knew about us. They knew about the Battle of Sol." Thompson leaned forward, interested. "Explain." "The story of our victory over the Harvesters has spread throughout this section of the galaxy. The Valith called us the Death Worlders, who broke the eternal harvest. They were terrified when we arrived, thought we'd come to conquer them." "And?" Thompson prompted. Nakamura smiled. "Once they realized we were there to talk, not fight, they couldn't believe it. Apparently, the Harvesters had marked their world for collection within the next century. Our victory gave them hope. They want an alliance, Admiral. Mutual defense, technology sharing, the works." This was becoming a pattern. In the 5 years since the battle, humanity had made contact with a dozen species. Most had heard of Earth's stand against the Harvesters. Some, like the Valith, sought alliance. Others maintained cautious distance, unsure what to make of the newcomers who had bloodied the galaxy's most feared conquerors. "Set up a diplomatic meeting," Thompson ordered. "We'll send Ambassador Chen. But, Captain, what about the other matter?" Nakamura's expression darkened. We found them, sir. 3 systems conquered by the harvesters in the past decade. Dead worlds, stripped of resources and population. Whatever they do with the species they harvest, no trace remains. Thompson nodded grimly. This, too, was becoming a pattern. For every thriving civilization they found, they discovered 2 or 3 tomb worlds, monuments to the harvesters' brutal efficiency. It reinforced the magnitude of what humanity had achieved and the importance of what they were building. In the sprawling shipyards of Mars, the next generation of Earth's fleet was taking shape. The UES Vengeance, humanity's first true dreadnought, dwarfed even the massive Harvester command ships. Its hull incorporated an alloy derived from salvaged enemy vessels, stronger than anything human metallurgy had previously achieved. Its weapons were a marriage of human innovation and alien technology, capable of cracking small moons. But it wasn't just warships emerging from the foundries. Colony ships, exploration vessels, and trade craft all bore the mark of humanity's new hybrid technology. Earth was expanding, not as conquerors, but as neighbors, traders, and, when necessary, protectors. Dr. Lisa Patel, once Earth's leading xenobiologist, now served as Director of Interspecies Affairs. Her office in New Geneva was a testament to how far humanity had come. Artifacts from a dozen different species decorated the walls, gifts from new allies and trading partners. But her attention today was focused on a report from the frontier. "They're calling it the Coalition of Free Worlds," her assistant explained, highlighting key points in the holographic display. 17 species have joined so far, with Earth as the unofficial leader. They all have one thing in common. They've either fought off the harvesters or are expecting an attack. Patel studied the data. The harvesters created their own worst enemy. By threatening everyone, they've given us common cause. "There's more," the assistant continued. "Intelligence reports suggest the harvesters are consolidating their forces in the galactic core. They've stopped their expansion, stopped their harvests. Our victory didn't just bloody their nose, it made them reconsider their entire strategy." "Or they're preparing for something bigger," Patel mused. She had studied the fragments of harvester culture they'd captured, and one thing was clear. They didn't accept defeat easily. Their entire society was built on the principle of inevitable victory. Earth had shattered that mythology. In deep space, aboard the exploration vessel UES Magellan, Captain Sophia Reyes made a discovery that would change everything. Her ship had been following traces of an ancient, faster-than-light trail, something that predated even the harvesters. What they found defied explanation. A massive structure hung in the void between stars. It was clearly artificial, a sphere of unknown material 20 kilometers in diameter. Its surface was covered in symbols that hurt to look at, as if they existed in more dimensions than human eyes could process. "Energy readings are off the charts," her science officer reported. "But it's not active. It's like it's sleeping." Reyes felt a chill run down her spine. "Signal Earth, Priority 1. We may have found something from the Deathless Ones." The Deathless Ones. The name had come from harvester databases, always mentioned in tones of fear and reverence. A species that had ruled the galaxy millions of years ago, then vanished without trace. The harvesters had built their empire in the ruins of what the Deathless Ones left behind, but they had never found anything like this. Back on Earth, President Elena Vasquez, who had succeeded Maria Rodriguez, convened an emergency session of the Coalition Council. Representatives from 17 species, some appearing by hologram, others present in person, gathered to discuss the discovery. "The implications are staggering," the Valeth representative said, its tentacles writhing in agitation. "If this is Deathless One technology, it could advance our capabilities by centuries. Or destroy us all," the representative from the Kalari Alliance countered. "The Deathless Ones disappeared for a reason. Perhaps we should leave their toys alone." Admiral Thompson, now serving as Earth's military advisor to the Coalition, stood to address the assembly. "With respect, we don't have that luxury. The harvesters are still out there, still a threat. If this artifact can give us an edge, we need to investigate it. Carefully, yes, but we can't afford to ignore it." The debate raged for hours, but in the end, human curiosity and pragmatism won out. A joint expedition would be sent, the best minds from all coalition species working together to unlock the artifact's secrets. 6 months later, Dr. Patel stood inside the artifact, her environmental suit sensors struggling to make sense of what they were detecting. The interior was a maze of corridors and chambers that seemed to exist in impossible geometries. But at its heart, they had found something extraordinary. "It's a library," she breathed, staring at the crystalline structures that hummed with stored information. "The entire history of the Deathless Ones, their technology, their culture, it's all here." Her colleague, a Valeth scientist named Quarix, extended a tentacle toward one of the crystals. "But why leave it? Why abandon such knowledge?" The answer came as they accessed the first files. The Deathless Ones hadn't been conquered or destroyed. They had evolved, transcended physical existence to become beings of pure thought. And they had left their knowledge behind for those who would come after. But with the knowledge came a warning. The universe was vast and full of terrors. The harvesters were only one of many threats that prowled the dark between stars. The Deathless Ones had faced these threats and chosen transcendence over eternal war. They offered another choice to those who found their legacy. "Use what we leave behind," the message said. "Grow strong, grow wise. But know that strength alone is not enough. The galaxy needs shepherds, not just warriors. Become what we could not, protectors of those who cannot protect themselves." The Coalition spent years studying the artifact, unlocking technologies that revolutionized every aspect of their civilizations. Medical advances that extended lifespans, energy sources that could power entire worlds, weapons that made even the Harvester's superweapon look primitive. But with each advancement came the responsibility the Deathless Ones had spoken of. Earth, as the unofficial leader of the Coalition, took this responsibility seriously. The Prometheus fleet evolved from a purely defensive force to something more. When the insectoid Zathi faced a gamma-ray burst that would have sterilized their world, human ships arrived with shield technology to protect them. When the aquatic Nereid needed help evacuating their planet before their sun went nova, Earth's colony ships carried them to safety. But the greatest test came 10 years after the Battle of Sol. The Harvesters returned, not with 50 ships, but with 500. They had spent a decade preparing, adapting, evolving their technology to counter what they had seen of human capabilities. They expected to face the same weapons, the same tactics. They were not prepared for what they found. The Coalition fleet that met them numbered over 1,000 ships from 17 different species. At its head was the UES Retribution, Admiral Thompson's new flagship, a vessel that incorporated Deathless One technology. Its weapons could manipulate fundamental forces, its shields could shrug off supernovas. But more importantly, the fleet fought with unity, human aggression tempered by Valeth wisdom. Kalari precision guided by Nereid intuition. 17 species, each contributing their strengths, covering each other's weaknesses. The Second Battle of Sol, as it came to be known, lasted less than an hour. The Harvester fleet, for all its numbers and improved technology, was systematically dismantled. But this time, humanity and its allies didn't stop at victory. They pursued the retreating Harvesters back to their home systems. What they found there shocked everyone. The Harvesters weren't conquerors by choice, but by necessity. Their home world was dying, had been dying for millennia. Every harvest was a desperate attempt to gather resources to sustain their failing ecosystem. They had become monsters out of desperation, not malice. The Coalition faced a choice. They could destroy the Harvesters, end the threat once and for all. Or they could offer another path. Admiral Thompson, standing on the bridge of the Retribution with representatives from all coalition species, made the decision that would define humanity's true place in the galaxy. "We offer you a choice," he broadcast to the Harvester home world. "Join us. Let us help heal your world. Find new homes for your people. You've spent so long taking from others, learn what it means to receive freely given aid. The coalition has room for all who choose peace over predation." It wasn't an easy transition. Generations of hatred and fear couldn't be erased overnight. But slowly, carefully, the Harvesters began to integrate into the coalition. Their technology, combined with Deathless One knowledge and human innovation, helped restore their dying world. Their warriors became defenders, their conquest fleets transformed into exploration vessels. 20 years after that first signal had reached Earth, Ambassador James Thompson, retired from military service, stood before the Galactic Assembly. The coalition had grown from 17 species to over 100. Former enemies sat side by side, working together to face the challenges of a vast and often hostile universe. "We stand here today not because humanity was strong," Thompson said, his voice carrying to representatives of species across the galaxy. "We stand here because when faced with extinction, we chose defiance. When offered the role of victim, we chose to be protectors. And when given the chance for revenge, we chose redemption." He paused, looking out at the assembly. Humans, harvesters, Valeth, and dozens of other species, all united by the common bonds of survival and hope. The signal that reached Earth 20 years ago was meant to herald our doom. Instead, it announced our awakening. Humanity's most terrifying fleet launched that day not to conquer, but to defend, not to destroy, but ultimately to unite. We are no longer alone in the universe, and that is not a threat but a promise. Together, we are stronger than any force that would seek to divide us. The assembly erupted in applause, a sound made strange by the many different forms it took. Hands clapping, tentacles slapping, crystals chiming, all celebrating the same truth. The galaxy had been transformed not by conquest, but by courage. Not by supremacy, but by solidarity. On Earth, children grew up learning about the Battle of Saul not as humanity's greatest victory, but as its most important lesson. Strength without wisdom was destruction. Power without purpose was tyranny. But courage tempered by compassion could change the very fabric of the galaxy. The Prometheus fleet still existed, larger and more powerful than ever. But its ships bore new names now: hope, unity, compassion alongside retribution, defiance, and victory. They patrolled not just human space, but coalition territory, protecting trade routes, evacuating threatened populations, exploring the vast unknown. In her final years, Dr. Lisa Patel compiled her life's work into a comprehensive guide to interspecies cooperation. Her conclusions were simple but profound. We feared the aliens would be monsters. Some were. We hoped they would be angels. None were. They were simply people, as flawed and magnificent as ourselves. Our greatest achievement wasn't defeating the Harvesters. It was recognizing that in the vastness of space, we are all in this together. The galaxy had learned an important lesson the day humanity's fleet launched. Earth's children were not prey. They were not conquerors. They were something far more dangerous and far more necessary. They were the shepherds the Deathless Ones had hoped for, protecting the weak, uplifting the fallen, and standing eternal watch against the dark. And in the depths of space, where new signals reached out from undiscovered civilizations, the message spread. Do not fear the Death Worlders. They come not to harvest, but to help. They are humanity, and they stand ready. The moment one signal reached Earth had indeed launched humanity's most terrifying fleet. But terror had transformed into hope, isolation into community, and a single world's defiance into a galaxy's salvation. The stars no longer held only threats, but infinite possibilities, and humanity, alongside its allies, stood ready to face them all. In the end, the greatest weapon humanity possessed wasn't its ships or its technology. It was its ability to see potential enemies as potential friends, to transform fear into understanding, and to prove that in the cold vastness of space, compassion could burn brighter than any star. The signal had been meant to announce Earth's doom. Instead, it had announced the dawn of a new age, one where differences were strength, where unity transcended species, and where the children of a small blue world had become the guardians of peace among the stars.